I need to think about this. Okay, the best part of my job is the next one.
Yeah.
And then the worst part, I honestly don't know what the worst part is.
Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name's Francis. I'm a trainee clinical psychologist studying at Oxford University. This is a video I should have finished editing a long time ago, but didn't. It's from my master's placement last year when I was at UCL studying developmental psychology and clinical practice. Part of my placement involved some systemic work with family therapists, but for a long time, I had no idea what systemic therapy or family therapy even was. And the whole job of being a family therapist seemed quite mysterious to me. So I pestered one of my colleagues for an interview. This is Richard, one of the family therapists working in CAMHS, the Child and Adolescent Mental Health Service in the UK. He's been practicing for a number of years after doing a master's in family therapy at King's College London. From working with him, he is unbelievable at what he does with families, and hopefully this interview will give you an idea of what it's like to do his job if you're thinking of getting into psychology or getting into some kind of therapy role and don't know what type of therapist you might want to be. Also, we recently just hit 10,000 subscribers. Thank you so much to every single one of you who've watched my videos and supported the channel along this journey for the past few years. I hope to continue making more videos that you find helpful alongside doing my clinical psychology training, which at the moment, they're actually giving me quite a lot of work to do. Don't know what that's about, but anyway, I digress. Here is the interview with Richard. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Richard. I'm a family therapist here at Wandsworth CAMHS in the Tier 2 service.
What does that involve? What is a family therapist?
I think the best way to actually even kind of contrast that with maybe what an individual therapist might do. I think individual therapy is very much interested in what's going on inside of the individual.
Yeah.
Thoughts, beliefs, feelings, wishes inside of the individual, whereas I think family therapy is interested in what's sort of going on between people, between family members, how families kind of co-create reality together, meanings, perceptions, that kind of stuff, basic shared beliefs. It tends to try and help families to look at this sort of bigger picture, how they're actually co-creating and communicating a sort of a shared sort of narrative and reality together.
So in family therapy sessions, what do you actually work on? What do you do?
There's always a kind of a specific presenting concern, whether it's a child or adolescent who has depression or anxiety or something like that. We can kind of explore that a bit in terms of how the family is making sense of why they're seeing this, who's the most worried, who's the most impacted by this, find new ways forward that can help meet the needs of everybody in the family.
Nice.
That's sort of it in a nutshell.
In a nutshell. Yeah. I'm mindful of this. Truck reversing down the street. How did you end up here?
I was freshly qualified for my master's degree. And
what was your master's in?
My master's was in family therapy. I qualified, I'm registered. I need to find a new job. I was very lucky to find that there was an opening and an advert for a family therapist in this service. Luckily enough, I got the job.
So your background was a master's in family therapy. Before then, what did you do?
Before this, I was a family mediator. Very, very different from family therapy in terms of the sort of background and the frameworks and theories. My first degree was in psychology. And in between psychology and my family therapy degree, I got a master's degree as well in comparative education, which I didn't quite find a job for.
Okay, didn't utilize that.
I didn't quite, that didn't come to fruition, but my family therapy degree did, and here I am.
What's it like working in family therapy within CAMHS? Is it different to, I guess, the ideal of family therapy?
The biggest benefit of actually working within CAMHS is to work very closely with the team, and it's a multidisciplinary team, so while I do work and kind of combine ideas and thoughts with other family therapists, I'm also in touch with psychologists, social workers, trainees, psychiatrists, nurses. So that's kind of the benefit, and what that brings to working in the NHS is having all these kind of various different perspectives from people who are from different professional backgrounds.
Why did you end up in family therapy? What drew you to that from like doing a psychology degree? Going to family therapy? I
genuinely believe that the family has the best potential to be the greatest source of support for any individual. When families are connected and they're in touch with each other and they're communicating well or well enough, I think that could be the best form of support for anybody in the family. And so that's why I went into family therapy as opposed to maybe a sort of individual focus.
Working here, what is a typical day like for you?
There probably is no typical day, but if I were forced to kind of try to...
typical week.
A typical week. Well, so I actually divide my time between doing single session, brief, solution-focused family sessions, one-off 90-minute family consultations with the whole family in the room talking about the issues and different ways forward.
That's what I joined.
And that's where you joined us. That's where I got to meet you. The other half of my week is doing family therapy, which is not just single session of 90 minutes. It'll be through multiple sessions over multiple weeks or even multiple months, working with the same family. And so we're kind of able to actually do longer term work, deeper and broader into the issues that they kind of bring to us.
Yeah. And I guess every family's different that comes in. Is there any kind of commonality between sessions? Does a typical family therapy session or a family consultation go the same kind of way?
I always assume, I think from the outset, that families are unique and individuals are unique. But having said that, you do tend to see families that remind you of other families. And so you tend to kind of use the lessons, I guess, that I picked up in various sessions working with this family with another family the following week.
I'm trying to think of some examples from sessions we've had. I feel like we use things like the anger iceberg. One example.
Sometimes I'll do like a family sculpt, like using little family figurines or like animal figurines.
Yeah, we have like toy boxes with lots of figurines that we can use.
Asking children specifically to pick out individual animals that represent themselves and their family members, and then asking them to kind of sculpt a scene of when things are going well with the family, and then to sculpt another scene of when maybe anger comes into the family or anxiety comes into the family. And how does that kind of change the picture? Usually we end up with asking them to sculpt a third scene. What would your ideal scene look like when anger comes into the family?
Yeah.
What do you want mom to do in that situation and dad to do? And where do you want to be? And how would that be different?
What's the purpose of doing the sculpting?
It draws out the children's perceptions of their family, of themselves, subtle kind of attitudes and beliefs about themselves and about their family members. But then it also draws out their wishes. They wish mom would respond or they would respond. And
Yeah, cool. And I guess in your extensive experience, what would you say the best part of your job is as a family therapist?
I think the best part is actually something I just experienced this week a few times, which is having some really intense sessions with some families. At the end, they say, thank you for this time, thanks for this opportunity. It was really valuable. There was a family that had a group hug at the end of the session. After having gone through an hour of really intense, raw emotions and lots of sort of uncertainties in that hour, I think to kind of end the session that way, a symbol of unity, actually, in that sort of group hug with the family. That's definitely the best part of the job. Something else that's really quite, it makes it even more valuable when you see a family just once, for 90 minutes. And after that 90 minutes, they say, and mom and dad will kind of turn to you and say, thank you, this is really, really helpful, really valuable.
Yeah.
I guess that's even more impactful, I guess, than actually seeing a family for 3 months.
What do you think the worst part of your job is here?
The sort of routine admin side of it, although even that for me can be really therapeutic and helpful. Just kind of being able to revisit my thoughts in writing can be really good. Maybe the worst part is maybe feeling that I and the family kind of get stuck to a point where I feel like I'm kind of getting in the way. I have to kind of revisit that and take that to supervision, I guess.
What would you get stuck on?
Oh, I don't know. Don't ask me that question. I love my job.
We love that. I feel like something that's quite common working in the NHS, the services can be like stretched. I don't imagine one-off sessions are common in the private world for family therapy.
Yeah.
But then that's what they have to do here to see a lot of people.
When families might give us feedback where they're maybe unhappy with what's being offered, I just kind of personally use that as an opportunity to strengthen the relationship and to say, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
How can we make that better? What can we do differently?
Yeah, because after the family consultation, you do a phone call a few weeks later to see how things have been going. And then, so sometimes the parents aren't happy. So sometimes they feel like maybe that 90 minutes maybe only kind of scratched the surface, which is understandable. Sometimes we'll offer them maybe a second consultation, maybe sometimes a parent-only session, because maybe sometimes parents will find it difficult to really be open enough in the presence of their children. Sometimes we'll offer a child-only session because the child finds it difficult to be as open as they would like to if their parents were in the room, or sibling only, that kind of thing. So we tend to be quite flexible as we can be when it comes to trying to actually meet the needs of these various families. How do you think I've done since I've joined? And you can be as brutally honest as you want.
I think I've seen your thinking change from day one to being a sort of individual-orientated thinking, linear, kind of what they call it, sort of linear thinking, developing more of an appreciation for the importance of exploring the systemic context and relationships.
I think it must have been the first family we saw. I was wondering why that particular child and his family were coming. I was like, isn't it just a problem
shouldn't this be just for an individual therapist?
An individual session. Since then, I feel like, I've got much more of an appreciation for the systemic context in the room. And then also from writing the letters as well, really trying to think about how it's perceived by each member of the family. And even if when the letter's read in future, like a few years down the line by the kid, like what will they think of that? Yeah. So it's a lot of putting myself in people's shoes.
You're not only finding an appreciation for why the family is important to the child. You've been very reflective, I think, in terms of your own experience, growing up and why that was important to you and how that kind of shaped you. Yeah. And I think that helped you to kind of now understand how this is shaping the child in front of you and the family that you're meeting with. So yeah, I definitely seen that change.
What would you like to do in the future? Where do you see yourself going with your career?
Honestly, I think right now I'm 100% focused and committed and embedded in being a family therapist. There's a possibility of moving into sort of managerial role, I guess, maybe some service coordinator, who knows. Yeah. But for right now, I think I'm very, very happy. I love my job. I love coming in every day. Yeah. And I'm just happy being where I am. But yeah.
Beautiful. Is it common for people to move from a clinical to a more managerial role?
I don't know if it's common, but I guess from my position, I'm a family therapist, and there's not like the only way up is pretty much to take on sort of managerial and coordinator responsibilities. So if I do move up, that's where I'll be headed.
Nice. All right. Thank you very much, Richard, for taking the time. Do you want to give a shout out to anyone or anything?
My posse in America. Peace.
All right, cool. Peace. Done.
I did that backwards, didn't I?
How much do you squat?
Squatting is my worst, actually. Ask me in private how much I bench, and I'll tell you. Squatting is.
Can I ask you in public how much you bench?
Honestly, I don't know. It's probably in kilos.
Oh, okay, we can do pounds.
In this country, we're going to do kilos, right?
Yeah.
What was 170, 180, I think?
180 kilos.
Something like that, yeah. I'll ask you for a spot next time.